private residential lot and still get an agriculture lot from us. But I think the intention of this MOU is to open up to those also who may have agriculture lots. But but before we should proceed with approving any type of construction of a residential dwelling, they have to meet the 2/3 requirement of farming.
Right, from the agricultural perspective, right? Okay, so so Commissioners, I think that the key thing is just to make sure that we have we send our edits over with the help of Attorney Toft, and just making sure that we take into consideration, right, the priority twos and how that's going to be managed. You know, it may not necessarily have to be spelled out here, but maybe in our processes and procedures and how to handle, right, when we do enter into this MOU, right? Okay, so that was my only concern. I know we've kind of touched on this a little bit in the initial meetings. So yeah, so those are the things that we could get back, you know, pretty quickly to bond housing, and then we can address this in our next meeting. But I'll just leave some time for our commissioners if they have any additional questions.
None from me.
Okay, so we'll look through for those proposed changes, and then, you know, maybe do back and forth with Guam Housing before it comes back to us.
Yeah, I think they're just minor changes that we would like to include in the
Okay, and then Commissioners, more so maybe just a question that you know, this is something that we would like to proceed with and entertain, correct? Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Angie. So let's if we can get that sorted through and do the back and forth, and then we can address this and hopefully close it out in our next meeting. Okay. Commissioners, anything else on that?
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the old business is our 95 application status. Okay. So Mr. Cruz, if you could join us and we can get through that.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director Marshall and Attorney Toft. So initially there was a 181, 187 next in line applicants that were pulled from the database for us to vet. There were some issues, for example, the applicants who had switched date and times. So what we've done is we went back and we decided that we're going to work on the first 30. It's more manageable for us. Not only that is, even if we had contact with them, they may have not provided the documentations we requested. So within the next week or a week and a half, we'll be sending out certified letters. The letter initially will be reviewed and approved by Attorney Toft before we send it out. But also within our rules and regs, we're required to publish it in the newspaper within 3 days after the certified mail is sent out. From there, they have 90 days. I believe it's 90 days to respond and to provide us with whatever we need. If there is no response, we'll gather that listing and present it to the board to remove from the waiting list, which is allowed by our rules and regs. So we're not held up, and a week after that, we'll do another 30. So every week we're looking at sending out 30 names until we reach the first name that's on the known and void listing.
Okay.
Because that hasn't been resolved yet.
Okay. Okay. So if I hear this correctly, it's the original one, or I think it was like 187, that the team had gone through and started making contacts. Now we're going to add another layer of communication in kind of chunks of 30 until we get to someone who may or may not be who may be on the null and void list.
And then we'll stop and
address.
We'll come back to the board and to see if they decided how we want to approach the null and void listing.
Okay.
We can provide a copy of the Attorney General's opinion to the board for their review, and we can go from there.
Okay. And then with that said, can you remind me again what are those communication channels for the first 30? So is it
So initially the team had initiated contact through telephone.
right?
Whether they contacted or not, we're going to move on to sending out certified mail.
Okay.
As required in our rules and regs.
May I real quick though? So, Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding, and I they did make telephone contact, but we also published it on our Facebook page, and we also issued the list to the mayor's offices.
Okay.
But in addition to that, in our rules, is it the rules and regs?
We're adding other layers so we can ensure that we're complying with our own internal rules and regs, which is providing certified mail, publishing it on the newspaper, giving them 90 days and leave it is to respond or to provide the documentations that we are requesting.
Okay.
In the event they should not respond or provide, then we'll put that listing together to remove from the waiting list so we can keep moving on.
Okay, and so after the certified mail, we go into the newspaper.
We have to
Advertising.
publish within 3 days of the date when the certified mail is sent out. So it's a little planning put into this. We gotta make sure we meet all the required requirements.
Okay. Okay, that sounds like a good plan. And so every meeting, every month, we'll probably get an update, right? Because of the timeline that we're working with. So so after certified mail is immediately 3 days is going to be an ad. Okay, and then what's the waiting period before if we get no response?
90 days. I believe it's 90 days. We
Okay.
have to provide them 90 days.
Okay, but it's going to be 30 at a time.
Yes.
So is the next 30 then after that 90 days?
The
Or,
next 30 will be the subsequent week.
okay,
We're trying to plan it out like that.
got it,
So,
got it.
After the first 90 days is reached, the week after, then, and so forth.
Okay. Now, just to make sure, right, we're working with both the 95 agriculture and residential and merging, right? Because that's kind of sequential order.
We are not, we pulled the listing not based on application type, but based on when the commission received the application.
Okay.
So their day and time, so the first can be residential, the next 10 can be agriculture, and the next 12 is residential.
Right. Okay. At what point in those lists, aside from null and void, would there be any other things that will hold us back from communicating or further outreach?
I believe only the northern border will be the setback.
Okay, and then of course if they, for some reason, already have a release of sorts.
Those leases may have not been ratified,
Ratified.
they may have been, could have been unregistered property, or they could have requested to deny the lease. There are a few variables that may be related to the lease issuance, but nonetheless, this process, we should correct it.
Okay. Okay, so that's good news in regards to us moving forward with the 95s, right? Now, of course, there's the eligibility process, right? And so I think that is what we'll be addressing later on. Okay, and next, okay. Okay, sorry, commissioners, I kind of took all the questions, but I'll turn it over to our commissioners to ask some questions.
I have one. Publication, you do publications on the Daily Post? What about PDM?
It's either or, we switch it up. It won't be one specific company. We have a blanket purchase order that was awarded to both PDN and the Post, so we switch it out monthly. It's not one specific.
Okay. Will we include, sorry, Joey, will we include these publications, maybe as a copy of that on our Facebook page, just so that an additional, yeah? So basically just taking the artwork from PDN or Post and putting on Facebook, right, as a, okay.
The publication, along with, like I said, the letter will be read through Attorney Tom
Okay,
prior to us mailing out or publishing to ensure that we don't violate anything.
do we have room or a space for it to go on our, the CLTC website under
I
DLM?
believe so. We can work that out through OTAG.
Okay,
And in addition, the team is familiar with putting it again at the mayor's offices. So
okay,
Yeah.
we'll continue that same distribution,
Mm.
just so that we're doing everything we can possibly think of to reach those applicants.
okay. Awesome, great. So that will take us further into the list of the 95s, right? Because again, I remember the non-contacts was pretty high number considering, right? And of course, then the next step is eligibility, and then the readiness of the constituent. So,
Sir, if I may, we're gonna include even the people who are in contact.
yes, yes,
So we're gonna start from 1 to 30.
correct, yeah. So even if we make contact, we're just gonna, go through the process, okay? Commissioners, any questions? Okay, I don't have anything else. Angie?
No, I think that sounds like a good plan.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Joey. All right, so then, Attorney Toff, any questions on your end, just from a?
No, not on my end.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next item is our new business. So I think this will carry on from our discussion with the 95s applications, which is the eligible beneficiary process, and so on and so forth. So we'll start with that. Okay, go ahead, Joey.
So,
thanks.
before you have one of the components of our SOP that we are updating, which is titled the eligibility process. What we did was we took the information from Public Law 35-112, which is what resulted from the settlement agreement to change and create Chapter 75A. This process is very detailed and step by step as to how the people within or who's processing the application for eligibility, what they should follow. There's nothing in here that is added or we didn't stretch anything from the law. It was just about verbatim or summarized in a sense.
Okay.
So we would like the board to consider approving this process so that we may apply it immediately. I mean, we've been applying it, but we're documenting it now, and it'll be part of our updated SOP. But if I may,
yes.
There's the forms that also go with the process, which is item 2 and 3, which is part of the eligibility process. Item 2 is the affidavit and the checklist. The affidavits were created to conform with the requirements if in the event that we're not able to find anything through the John Bond files or the district court listing or the district court taking listing or anything like that. Whatever resources we have available to conduct the research for our constituents, they're able to either choose to fill out the affidavit of eligibility owner form, which also we standardize and it's labeled as CLTC AFF-001, or the affidavit for eligibility occupied farm or ranch form that has also been standardized as CLTC AFF-002 in the event that the people who are conducting the eligibility process cannot find any information on the constituent or their ancestors. So they have the option to fill out either form.
Great.
And then the other document that's also part of the forms is the checklist. And that checklist is also detailed and it also coincides with the eligibility process that has been mapped out. The reason why we created a checklist form is to hold the people or the personnel who's conducting the eligibility review, the supervisor and the director accountable. And we hope that the board, if possible, can delegate this process of approving to the administrative director.
Okay. So we've got the eligibility process, we've got the checklist, the affidavit checklist, and then the affidavit and the checklist, right? Okay.
They all work hand in hand.
Now, there's a difference, right? So they can do either or is going to be,
Owner or
owner or the occupied farm to ranch, right? Okay, and that's all in line with the settlement, right? Okay.
There's just one thing that we may, or we would like to bring up is, the form was created based on the law. Now, for example, if I was to come in and I could fill out items 1, 2, or 1, 3, but not 4, or not the date the land was acquired by the United States, is the board going to allow us to accept that as a complete document still, or they need to fill out the form in its entirety?
And you're under owner, right? You're in the
That's
owner.
under owner.
Okay.
But it also could work for the occupied
Right.
ranch farm, if they're not able to fill out certain information.
But the team, right, will do our best to help grab all that information, right?
Yes, yes.
And then when this gets, so if we delegate that authority from approval of eligibility to the administrative director, right, that's on the administrative director to ensure, right, that we have all the information.
Which is reflected on our checklist.
Right.
Yes.
And then if at any point there's anything that's questionable or maybe needs to be taken up through to the board, and that's when we'll bring it up, would that be the final determination whether or not we accept it from an eligibility standpoint?
If
Let's say the piece of information is missing, or how would we?
that could be, or the board can decide what would be acceptable when it comes to this type of, or to the forms. That's why we brought it up. Because we may get some constituents that come in that the team may not be able to find any information regarding their ancestors. And they opt to fill out the affidavit of occupied farm and ranch.
Okay.
So they could probably fill out all the information except for like the legal landowner or the length of time person or persons listed above continuously occupied farmed, or, we don't know, but
There's many
there's a good
scenarios,
chance
right?
that they may not be able to provide one piece of information that's needed on the form.
May I then?
Yeah.
I think that what I'm seeing though is, for example, with an owner, it's usually related to like the John Bond file, so that in that case, we could pretty much complete, right?
If we
If
should
we find a legal
find
document.
something, there's no need to fill out the affidavits.
Right.
We just move into them printing it out, attaching it, completing the eligibility checklist, forwarding it to the director, coming to the supervisor for their review. If that's all good, forward it to the director for approval, if the board should delegate that authority to the director.
So I think that if it's complete, if there is that court document that can
There will be no need
substantiate.
for that.
Yeah, I just think in that case, then I'm very comfortable making that decision. You can check off all the boxes. I think that personally, if something is missing, I would like to come to the board. Let's see how it goes. If it's a bottleneck, we may decide at that time to give the administrative director that authority, but I just think let's approve it if it's complete. If it's not, we'll come back to the board and present it for your
Review and approval,
consideration.
yeah.
Maybe like a partial authority or something like that.
Right. I think for me, when it comes to the affidavit, right, it's basically they're signing and attesting that the information that they're providing, right, is true and fact, right? Now, if there's about 12 questions, or let's say 11 questions here, right? And, there's got to be a point where we should review it if they can only answer, I don't know, is it 3 of 11? 5 of 11, is it 50% that can be answered, or that can be filled in? Because from our perspective, again, I'm going to speak for myself, right? From my perspective, there's gotta be something for the board to kind of hang their hat on. If someone is attesting and signing off on an affidavit, however, they can only fill out 25% of the information that's needed. Do we know or can we determine what is required versus what is, not necessarily that it's not important, but things that we can substantiate that is, if we make it required, right? So if they require number 1, 7, 5, 8, and 9, then those have to be filled out. Those have to have information, and then everything else would be kind of an additive to help support, right?
Optional.
I believe, or not I believe, but I know these forms were created through the items listed in the 75A as what's
Okay.
required. The only thing that's for is the parcel number, address, legal description, or other identifier.
Okay.
And Attorney Tom can chime in on this, but this was created based on the requirements of the 75A.
Okay.
Our only
Yeah,
concern.
sorry, I'll chime in. Yeah, that's correct. The affidavit was created based on 75A. The applicant was required to use their best efforts to fill it in. And once they've filled it in, the commission is supposed to review all the documentation, the declarations, the affidavits, and make a determination based off of that,
Okay.
just off of their best efforts.
Right. Okay. So Joey, could we do that, to your point of where you said that, based on the 75A, these are the, maybe put an asterisk by these are, required, and then everything else, right, that you were just mentioning, that is, not necessarily required, right? But it'd be an option, or it's optional, if they have that information, but even with the affidavit, right, for occupied farm to ranch, our staff will also assist or guide our constituents of where to get that information, how to request it, right, our partnership with GLC, et cetera, right?
Initially, our staff will do all the research, will
Okay.
conduct all the research. So if our staff is unable to find anything from the John Bond District Court listing, the land web, or GALC's John Bond judgment files,
Okay,
it's highly unlikely our constituents will find anything.
yeah, unless they have something in hand.
Yeah,
That
but
helps.
these forms won't,
affordable housing project that we've been pursuing.
the affidavits don't come into play until they've exhausted all their resources.
Mr. Chairman, so I know that we have a couple of team members who are proficient at this, and we'll have them train everybody on the team so that everybody can do the research. But I think that the girls that have been doing this have a good grasp.
Okay, of how to get this information.
Also, if I may, our eligibility process, that component of our SOP spells out the steps to take.
Right.
So in the event that they're unsuccessful, the John Bond files, the land web, and the GLC John Bond judgment files, they move on to step 2, which is the affidavit. But if they are successful, they move on to step 3, and they start requesting for documents.
Right, okay,
So, but our concern was that to ensure that there's consistency, as we review the affidavits, what would be the minimum requirements? If the board should decide there is a minimum requirement, like they're not able to fill out 50% of the document, but they're testing, and it's to the best of their, they're filling out the best they could.
right,
So, we just need to, I'm not saying you need to decide now, but just something to think about. Because then, if for instance, a constituent comes in and can't fill out the whole entire document or all the information, we may reject it because it's incomplete. But if the board decides, well, this is to the best of their knowledge, and then it's lacking some information and you're gonna accept it, then, the staff can prepare everything, fill out the checklist, forward it to the supervisor, and then to the director, and then we do what we need to do next.
okay. All right, I mean, I think, as we formalize, and then, you know, we have the 95s and the 30 batches at a time, right? Those will start coming in, and we're gonna have to start filling out all this information. I think that's where we get a good gauge, right? To see what does that, what does those documentations look like, right? Is our constituents, you know, primarily doing the owner document, and then only maybe one or two on the other, the ranch farm, or?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we're not waiting for their time and date to come. If they come in and, for example, they're beneficiaries, we go ahead and we
Right, we're
process
doing
it.
this today.
Yeah,
We're just formalizing it and putting it into a process.
But it's also gonna apply to those who are designated as beneficiaries or
Right.
they wanna transfer their lease because they held it for 7 years. So this process is gonna apply to everything.
Yeah, and this has been in use, it's just, excuse me, we're just kind of putting it into the board and making sure it's you know, formalized. My question before I forget, sorry, Attorney Toff, have you had a chance to review these docs for the team?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and you're pretty confident that we've covered all our bases in regard to 75A?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'll yield my some time to our commissioners for questions.
Is this in electronic form?
Yes,
And we can have both electronic and hard copy
for,
as they fill the questions and answers?
uh,
Is it being posted in an electronic file for a particular, let's say,
if it's approved and
constituent
everything,
one?
the affidavits will be available, we'll make sure it's available like every other form online. If not, we'll have hard copies. Since you brought that up, we also have plans to create little kiosks out there for contact lists with our constituents where they can start filling out forms on the computer. So it will be available.
So let's say a constituent fills out number 1, 2, and 3, that would be automated at that same time? Or transpose? Is it hard copy or?
And then they can print it. If I'm answering, if I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
so I come in and say, Joey, I need to apply because I'm a beneficiary for Tunusay in 1898. Then we fill this out by hard copy.
Yes, but if, first the staff will go through the John Bond files and all.
As I come in, because this is not a first come, first serve. This is for anybody that's
Whether
within
you're
the
an applicant.
1898 to 1968.
Anybody who's an applicant, a named beneficiary, or a transferee, this will apply to them
Okay,
now.
got it. So it's automated and hard copy.
Yes.
Second question is that can we add a routing slip that goes with the applicant's file to know when the paper goes to Land Agent 1 in the first month, and then Land Agent 1 does the research for, let's say, 1 week, 1 month, that process is being documented, that this land agent took 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days to perform that research with John Bond's file, or, you know what I mean, the timeline.
Yes. What
So
we did, and we forgot
a
to
routing
provide-
slip to understand where the documents are going
Yes.
and the timeline it takes for it to go from point A to point Z.
We'll include that in our checklist, the dates,
Mhm.
so at least we'll know, right? And the supervisor will know, the director will know the time frame.
Right, yeah, and the minutes as the land agent contacts University of Guam or more land trust or ancestral lands, that those are documented with their communication and who they communicated.
Yes, we'll ensure, because we also have a status form in the files, which they use to document the actions that are taken or that they complete. If they communicate with the constituent, it's documented in the status information sheet in the file.
All right,
But we can add, to your concern, we can add the dates in our checklist. We can figure out how we'll add that into the checklist. And instead of like, we can also include like staff recommendation and completion date or something like that. We'll modify the form.
I think to Commissioner Herrera's point, the status sheet, I believe is what it's called, right? without maybe duplicating the effort, how do we then either merge the status sheet or maybe add a couple more date blocks here in regards to, you know, the steps that are listed in here, that kind of ties, right? Because they're always going to update the status sheet. They have to take a phone call,
Correct.
an email, etc.,
Correct.
right? But something that ties maybe key or critical dates in our process into the sheet, that will help just kind of make sure that, you know, things are still moving along and how long it's taking.
Correct.
Some cases may require more time than others.
Right.
Yeah, and
Oh,
we'd
yeah.
like to see the gap of that time.
So on our time entry form, there's a date of when the constituent, there should be a section there where the date, where the constituent signs and dates it when they submitted it. In our process, there are timelines that need to be met, especially as soon as the constituent has submitted all their birth certificates, whatever is needed for us to ascertain that that individual is a descendant of whomever. That's on step 4 and step 6, 4, 5, and 6,
Okay,
where there's a 7-day period, a 3 working day, and then within 3 days, a letter goes out. Will be forwarded, and the letter will be mailed.
right.
But to your concern about the initial process of when it's received and how long it takes, we can figure out and add, like you mentioned, date blocks.
Yeah, just key milestones or key
Correct, yeah.
components here, because we know, like to your point, we receive all the documents, that goes in the status.
And then we have 30 days to
Right.
inform the constituent of their eligibility based on our rules and regs.
So my point there, right, is that if a constituent A, for example, gives it to land agent A, 1, and land agent A takes a leave for 30 days, and then that document would be sitting idle for 30 days, but we're putting the burden of proof on the constituent, but the delay was on the agent. So then land agent 1, is on leave for a certain period of time, so then that document will go to land agent 2. Land agent 2 is sick for 2 weeks, then it goes for another month. And I'm saying that because I've only been here for about 3 or 4 meetings, but I've seen where that gap is. And then it was our process was kind of not as smooth as it should be.
Right.
And then we put the burden of stress on the constituent. That's my point.
Yeah.
But because we're understaffed, some are getting sick every now and then. So my point is that, we got to have that check and balance mechanism, right, to say that it's not from our commission that's at fault. Because in the end, sometimes we tell the constituent, it's your fault. The constituent turns around and says, I've been here for already 3 years, 4 years, we've been going through this, but the process is going from land agent 1, land agent 2, land agent 3, then 4, then 5, then boom.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's my point. And I've seen this, and it's a trend. It's a trend. So we try to insert mechanisms, right? A fail-safe mechanism, but we get blocked in because, the constituent should have known 75A, Public Law 35112, should have known the constituent,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah, understood.
And when you see the agreement, the amount of data or the amount of litigation it went through, we're expecting the constituent to know, they should know what's in the public law. But we're the experts, right? No, and what I'm saying is that we're just trying to put a fail-safe mechanism on the documents to see the timeline from the time it comes in to the time it gets approved and validated. That's my point, because I've seen the trend.
Yeah, I think that once we accept an application, because we're not digitized yet, I think that once we get digitized, land agents will be able to access what has transpired in that file. Right now, we're still manual, and so a file it's true, a file may sit on a land agent's desk, and you're right, we've been dealing with COVID, so they could be. But what I'm saying is what I'm thinking is to solve this, because I agree. it's on both sides. It's on CLTC, but it's also on the lessee or the applicant or the constituent. What I'm thinking is maybe we can provide them with an email address, which works really well in our agency. There is an admin at CLTC, and I think that we can just, once the documents are turned in, we can just say, you know, this is an email address. Several land agents, I believe admin have access to it, and we do monitor it. And that's how we find, you know, things that have fallen through the cracks, right? Somebody has been waiting too long, and then they'll email that address, and we're able to pick up where somebody left out.
Yeah, that's with the
So maybe we can just
constituent.
notify them, you know, in case you don't hear back from us within a week or two, please, you know,
Get in
email
touch,
us so that we can follow up on it for you.
No, but to add to that, just there's a layer of accountability too, right?
Right,
That-
internally, I'm
internally.
talking about internally.
Right, no, and I agree, because again, I feel that it's both CLTC, I mean, land agents, I see sometimes, you know, they've had COVID situations, they've been out, right? Not
And they will
any-
work from the home.
No fault to them. Well, if they're in COVID, they're not working, they're on sick leave, right?
Okay,
We don't
whatever.
really work from home.
Yeah.
Our office is not working from home. So if a land agent is sick and not coming to work, it's true, things, or they go on vacation and they didn't finish their, you know, they didn't distribute it, can you take care of this while I'm out? It's true, I will own.
That's my point.
I will
Who
own.
handles that when they're off? And we'll
Yeah.
get to that case when we reach, because there's one case here that we're gonna dissect that
If
issue.
if I may, to Mr. Herrera's concern, I think it's more on the reassignment of tasks, right?
Something
Instead
like
of
that.
sitting- So just so, for disclosure, is we're in the process of recruiting land agent supervisor. We're in the process of updating all our performance evaluations. Within our evaluations, there will be timelines of when tasks should be completed. So to hold people accountable, if you don't perform to at least a satisfactory, you're not going to get your increment. So, you know, to his concern. But we will add the date blocks to see, and we need to get an average of how long it takes to research one case. If everybody's going to conduct research, so we take the median of everybody. Because some can perform faster than others.
Right.
So we'll take the average of everybody, of how long it takes everybody to do research. And, you know, we can use that as our satisfactory performance standard as we go through the performance eval process.
So,
Well, well,
no, good. I was gonna say, so we don't technically have this baseline of, it takes 45 days for a case from beginning to end, right? Include all the steps.
It's very fluid. It's very
Yeah.
fluid because,
Every case is unique.
yeah, I've been an agent myself, so what I'm
Right.
saying is that every workstation here that I visit, and I've been visiting here quite some time, and I observe the machines that we have. So if we say that this is not automated and each one of us have a desktop or a smartphone, right?
They just have desktops, though. Nobody, I think all their phones are personal.
Personal.
Okay, so let's just desktop, right? This already, and probably Attorney Top already has this in an automated form. So that's what I'm saying, it's automated and interface to have a standard send through file where constituent A comes in, it's automatically in that website.
That's the digitization that we are in the process of,
Working on
yeah. We have the TAP grant, and we'll talk about it during
the agency report.
my agency report.
But so far as information availability, it is automated through the land web and from the forms that were sent, or the information from Ancestral and things like that.
I'm getting a flashback every time I look at that screen, right, with all the apps there, and we cannot digitize it today.
Right.
That's what you're telling me?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it
it's okay,
requires
I'm-
scanning
No, no.
and building files, and
I got it.
But no,
Okay.
but
I'm done, thank you.
yeah, no, but let
Mr.
me just
Chairman.
add, let me just add to that. There's accountability that we want to make sure is going to be at the forefront, right? To ensure that we work through these timelines. And then Commissioner Herrera, I think you'll be pleased to hear about the grant that we got that will help to do some of the digitization. That, to your point, it may not be fully automated, right? It'll take us a little bit longer, but there are efforts to digitize things so that we're not having to ruffle through folders, and it's archived in a on the computer. Yeah. So just wanted to add that in. I think they're going to touch base on that later.
Understand, thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yep. Okay, but definitely from an accountability standpoint, right? It's definitely what kind of resounds with the commissioners to ensure that the end-to-end and handling and of both the constituents and also making sure that our land agents is working with them collaboratively to get the information that we need, right? So okay, so with that said, right, we do have the process. We do have the checklists that has gone through with Attorney Toft. And these are available in electronic form, so they can fill it out electronically as well, correct?
It will be available.
Right, okay. Just in case, when there's the constituents sitting in front of them, you can, help fill them out. I don't think I have any further questions. Commissioner Berdali, any questions from your side?
The 187, the 30 that you're going to start with, what about if someone came in that is not one of the 30 that's listed,
Came in for
but is one of the 187?
to.
They came in and,
To fill the, yeah.
Full process. They don't have to be on the
The list.
1995 December 2nd for us to process. We're processing even, like Joey mentioned earlier, people transferring their leases. We'll process those who are successors or beneficiaries to leases. We'll process them. They don't have to. We'll process anybody who puts in an application today. If we'll guide them to.
for eligibility.
We don't want to hold up. It's in their best interest, and we encourage them even. Let's get you processed. Let's get you meet your qualifications so that when your time comes up, we can entertain it, quickly.
For example, the former owners where the airport is, the landing,
Yeah, right, landing field,
the airfield,
yes.
the former owners, they didn't get the land return,
Correct.
so they're eligible for this.
That's
Yes.
correct.
But the lease will not be presented to the board for approval until their date and time is reached. That's the only thing.
And we have how many applicants on 13,000, 11,000?
Pending, I think we have a total, I think, of 11,000 some applications.
Okay, so 11,001, the Tizen beneficiary
processed
came in, so
2,000.
there'll be 11,001.
Yeah, applications, but we processed 2,907 leases as of September 30th, 2021. So that's where we're at, about
Yeah.
8,000 some.
The point to add here, right, because 35,112, it's a new requirement. So now the rules of the eligibility change.
And that's how we created our eligibility
Understand,
process.
but the December 1995 was based on an illegal,
The native children.
violated mandate for the Fair Housing Act. Some got their lease and did not meet the Fair Housing Act. So now the applicant from Tizen came in and was qualified based on their
The new process.
right. So, but they're still gonna be the last on the list.
If, depending on where they
Where's the
apply.
justice, right? Where's the fairness?
Depending on where they're applied, because even if our eligibility for the program has changed, the processing hasn't. So we're gonna process applications based on date and time, which is how it was received by the commission.
So where's the fairness of that one?
That's-
When the federal government said, you have violated CHamoru Land Trust Government of Guam, right? You violated the Fair Housing Act. And then the Tijan
Owners, yeah.
owners, or I'm Finna,
It's by law.
by law,
We're-
that
yeah,
one.
We're mandated by law to process our applicants by date and time. Even people who.
I understand.
Are preoccupiers. There's nothing that says that they should be or should not be issued a lease, right? So even if you're staying there, the law just basically says that we can't evict you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say that we need to issue you a lease.
Yeah, but we can't evict the person that's been already evicted by the federal
Right,
government at
right,
Tijan.
right. But what
So
I'm
where's the
saying
logic
is-
there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Where's your
the way
logic?
the law was written. It's the way the law was written.
Understand, so we'll go one more step, right? No, so how do you accommodate the,
Ask the attorney there.
yeah, right, because the federal government settled the matter to address those that have had their properties partially condemned, fully condemned, or entirely condemned without fair compensation. So where's the justice? That's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Commissioner Verdali is right. Let's.
Of course, yeah, and it's not fair. Right now, this rule is not fair. It's not just.
But.
According to the law,
land
it
taking
is.
Land taking, to me, land taking is land taking, whether you're in Titan or whether,
Even those who
You're in
got their
Suma.
property returned, they still eligible for our program.
Understand, but we're talking about the ones that never had their land back.
and will not get it back, right? And will not, right?
Well, we'll work with the legislature to amend the current law to make it fair and just for those applicants that you're talking about.
The teams in that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of scenarios, right, that we are addressing as they come through.
One step at a
One step at a
time.
time. But thank you, Commissioner, for our point, definitely point taken. And I think our next steps is, as the commissioners, given that we want to accept or formalize, right, the process, the eligibility process, which again, the team has been using and doing, but it's just formally accepting it and making sure that we can we hang our hats to it, right, and we support it. And then secondly is the forms, right, just making sure that we formally approve these forms that has been reviewed by Attorney Toft, and subject to just a couple of edits that Joey will work with the team to make in regards to kind of important dates that we need to track here. Is that's kind of what our next task at hand is. Joey, did you have a question?
If I may, so as far as the dates, if on item 2, research conducted, we can put a start date and an end date there, so at least we can track how long it takes for research to be performed.
Okay, so there's like a research
And then number 2,
timeline.
it says research conducted, and we can put right below it like a start date and an end date, so at least whoever's conducting the research can fill that in.
Okay,
So, it won't be a conditional approval, or there will be a conditional approval if the board should choose so, but with that amendment. So here, we're gonna put a start date and end date.
I see.
okay. Yeah, and again, it's more for us to get a gauge of how long are these taking?
Correct.
Is there something, how can we help to make it faster if it's taking, let's say we assume it's 30 days, but it's actually taking us 45 to 60. What is it that we can do, right, to help with the research, right?
And also, that's one of the reasons why we put the constituents to sign the family tree form and the date is submitted. Because sometimes constituents don't come back for weeks.
Right.
Not everybody,
Right.
but some.
And then there's, things happen, right? Things happen, life happens,
And I've
etc.
seen it also where it's piecemeal, right? They know their moms, grandparents, but it takes, they may not know their father's grandparents or vice versa. So, again, it's kind of unique, every
Yeah.
situation, right?
Do you guys, your land management has records during the Spanish time, so
The blue books. But the staff also uses the land web, which has been a very helpful tool.
That's the land management's.
System.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, any other questions? I think this is what my next question was, and then, again, subject to, you know, an addition of a date box. You know, commissioners, are we comfortable with, formally approving these, you know, again, subject to correction or amendment as things change? To start, you know, making sure that we formally accept this as our documentation for the process.
Well, it's given to us by law, right?
Right.
We have no choice.
Yep, we're just gonna formalize it, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'd
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
for item, new business item 2.
1 and 2.
1 and 2, to approve the CHamoru Land Trust Commission eligible beneficiary process. And number 2, the affidavit and checklist for approval of the eligible beneficiary process also.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Herrera. May I get a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bergalio. Any objections?
None.
Okay, hearing none, motion passes to accept and formalize the CLTC eligible beneficiary process and the affidavit and checklist for approval of the eligible beneficiary process. Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Joey and team, right? Again, this is, again, formalizing, but it's also to really help us to make sure that, you know, we can go from every step of the way in helping our constituents in this process. So thank you for the time and effort to document this. And we're actually quite formalizing it, so I appreciate that. Okay, any questions thus far? Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval and delegation of the responsibility for the administrative director with regards to approving the eligibility for each of these constituents, right? Okay. How have we been doing it today, is my question,
It's been being presented to the board.
right?
For approval of eligibility, but Attorney Top can chime in whether this task
Is delegatable?
to delegated to the.
That was going to be my next. So Attorney Toft, given that, is this something that we can delegate to the administrative director, barring any, you know, anything that goes outside of the process that needs to come to the commissioners?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, are we comfortable in giving the director approving all of these forms as they come in, right? If it's approved or not from an eligibility standpoint. That's all it entails, is if they're eligible or not. Any questions that they feel it needs to be, they can bring to the board.
I see.
Yeah.
So I'd
Sure.
like to make a motion also again.
Okay, yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, for number 3 on new business, the approval and delegation of responsibility for the administrative director.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Berdalio. Any objections? Okay, hearing none, motion passes, and the approval and delegation of responsibility for the administrative director with regard to the approval of the eligibility approval of eligibility.
We'll prepare a resolution, so it can be signed.
Okay. Okay, Tina, was that enough?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate that. And then last on our new business is the lot 7164 in Jigo.
Okay,
That's Joey and Glenn?
And Pierce,
Okay.
we all did. And Commissioner. we all
Oh,
did
yes, that's the
that.
one that, yeah, okay.
Is it every?
We're the bearer of bad news, I think. Us 3 here, but.
We have the area on the screen.
Okay, and then Mr. Pierce and Mr. Glenn, if you could just, for purposes, just state your names, please. Join us.
Pierce Castro, Engineering Technician,
Glenn A, Land Agency, CHamoru Land Trust.
Thank you, sir.
And Joe, still here.
Joey's still here. Okay.
So what it was, or what had happened was, the three of us and Commissioner Herrera had conducted, I think, a couple of site visits to the Guam Racing Federation in Jigo, to do other business regarding the mineral extraction and the activities there. And, so it was discovered that, and it was known that there was a road that traverses over lot 7164, which is owned by the Chamorro Naturist Commission, which is or was and still being used by Smithbridge to take the gravel that's being mineral extracted from either the government property and the private property to their quarry facility. We did do a quick review of the file, and we didn't find anything in file that had authorized Smithbridge to clear or to utilize that property as their easement to get to their pouring station. We did send an email to one of the representatives of the Guam Racing Federation inquiring about whether there's any permits, any authorizations that they may have in file, or who gave the authorization to Smithbridge. As of today, we haven't received a response. So our concern is that, we have to ensure that there's parity amongst the treatment of companies who are utilizing Chamorro Naturist property, even if it's just for an easement or to turn their trucks around. And what I mean by turn their trucks around is, for example, Quick Space pays us $2,000 some a year just to use a small portion of our property to have their trucks turn around and I think reverse into their own compound. Whereas we have Smithbridge today and in the past who has utilized CLTC property as their easement to their quarry site. We don't even know if they had a permit to clear their so-called easement. It's still unknown, but we wanted the board to consider approving a right of entry to Smithbridge to utilize 7164. And if the commission should decide to consider a right of entry, we will open up the dialogue with Smithbridge and how we can resolve this issue. Hopefully we can recover some fees from past usage. We don't know, but going forward at least, there will be parity in how we treat companies utilizing our property. Not just one pay and the other don't. And we'll collect what's due to us, or what's owed to us at the very least.
Okay.
There's a map attached to it, and what we did was, the three of us, we drove quite a ways into the property. So if you see the red triangles here, northeast of the property, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
That's where we GPSed. The triangle is the GPS picture we took. And then as we exited, going to Guam Racing, we did another GPS. So, and as you can see from this aerial, it does run through all the way, run through 7164-R5, -5, -4, and -3.
-3 is also land trust?
Yes.
Okay. That one I didn't.
Mr. Chairman, can I just get from the team a point of clarification?
That's all.
Yes.
Is there currently any mineral extractions on government property in that area?
No, our last visit, there wasn't any. They had barricaded it or blocked it off with boulders. So as far as any mineral extraction activity being conducted on Chamorro Naturist property, we don't think so because of the boulders. Although there was activity of backfilling. That was a concern also that we had with the Guam Racing Federation. Currently and in the past, there was backfilling of exported material, which to our knowledge, the last permit did not allow for any backfilling with the use of export or imported material. So they couldn't take the gravel road and dump it and try to level it up. They weren't supposed to do that. We did recently get a topo survey from Farm Racing Federation, which is being reviewed by Mr. Castro. I believe his review is still going on.
Yeah, so,
And that's to try to find us a starting point, or to try to ascertain what was actually paid is really what was actually taken out. So that's where we're at with that.
When did,
Just-
I just wanted to ask, when did we receive that topo? Because I know we were waiting for it for a while.
About 2 months ago, I believe, 2,
Okay.
3 months ago.
So we did get a fairly recent one.
yes.
Okay.
Our problem is, the data that they used, to start, well, the starting of their topo doesn't take us back to when they first started practicing. We can't find a benchmark in that area, to show what the elevation was.
Prior.
And, yeah, prior, right. They used the LiDAR image, which is a 2007 image. And, they did give us, data on what was taken, during that time from 2007 to now.
Right.
Yeah, but, prior to that, there's, we have, satellite images, going back to 2003, that show excavating being done already, but we can't find a benchmark within the lot to show what the elevation was at the time. We have elevations outside, like on the private side, but, there's no way to compare,
Right.
what was taken inside.
From our space, our land.
Yeah, we're still trying to research that. I'm checking on all the old files and.
At that time, I think in 2003, even prior to, there was 3 companies. So there was Hawaiian Rock, Parrish Brothers, and I think it was Smith Bridge. But the topo we have today is only related to the activities that Smith Bridge had conducted within Zone 5A, Phase 1, Zone 1, something to that effect. It doesn't incorporate the entire 250 acres.
Okay.
I think those spaces are just along the drag strip, right?
Yes.
Just along the
Right.
drag strip, is that?
Okay, Angie?
But I would just like to make the point that currently the traversing would only be their mineral extraction from private property, because there's no mineral extraction from
With
Chamorro
our
Natural
side, there shouldn't be any,
Currently.
yeah.
Well, what was that again?
So, the traversing today should only be for private property and not CLTC property, because today there should not be any mineral extractions from
Any activity on,
Chamorro Land Trust property.
Just also.
There should not be any mineral extraction from Chamorro.
After the extraction from the last
Yeah,
20 years.
just today, I'm saying today.
yeah. So there should be no activity today.
We're not allowing any traversing for the removal of Chamorro Land Trust property, because that activity should not be happening
Right.
today.
a
I just wanna be
certificate
clear,
was
yeah.
issued.
I see.
I just want to be clear that this is, there's mineral extraction activity today on private property, not on CLTC property, because we issued a cease and desist. as to-
Yeah, and they are coming, but this piece here is where they're going back and forth. Okay.
So the activity now is on
In addition
private.
to traversing over the leased property by Raceway, they're also traversing over property that's to the north of the Raceway property. And also, we're trying to determine what was over excavated, what the amount of area that was over excavated. And Pierce
Yeah.
also is handling that project.
And I think Glenn has photos of the construction material, remember on our
Oh, yes.
first?
Yeah.
Those were hollow blocks or concrete with rebars?
Yeah. From the tear down buildings or wherever.
Right, and now that's covered with granulated sand.
Yeah.
All kinds of mixed use
No,
materials
yeah.
was brought in to fill the area, which was not allowed. It was supposed to be just materials that within the compound that's supposed to filling. But then, like we observed, there was all kinds of materials such as boulders, concrete blocks,
Slabs.
CMU blocks,
Right.
can sand, coral base from outside. You could see that the color of the materials are not from within our property. All kinds of, about 5 types of filling that was taken from the outside rather to fill in the property. And it's a big project, and you can really
Yeah.
see that when they extracted the minerals from our property, you could see actually the cut and grade of the property from the raceway top, going down to where they're filling, it's really, the height's about,
5 feet, no?
not going up the.
Oh, from the
500
top.
feet.
Oh,
500 feet.
yeah.
So they did a lot of cutting, so if they're gonna fill that, it's gonna take another 10 years to fill that out, I don't know where they're gonna get the materials
Yeah.
to fill it out, but
But they shouldn't even be filling it.
And, yeah, then.
Not with that material.
not with that material,
Right.
right, supposed to be.
It has to be approved by EPA, right? No? Oh, no?
The agreement was, I believe, just from
The,
The permit.
within the, yeah.
The permit.
the permit
specifically
stated that
Oh, the
there's
permit.
no imported material shall be used to fill. So if you look at the drag strip, instead of, I don't think they're gonna fill to reach it, they're probably gonna tear it down and
People.
make it level.
And the lease is still good with,
No,
when's their lease expired?
It's,
the lease has expired already, and what has happened in the past is that there's been numerous extensions for right of entry. There was a law passed that gave them the first right of refusal, but because we didn't, the 180 days has lapsed, that law is no more, it's not valid anymore. Attorney Top can chime in on this.
And there was 4 companies that we identified at that time, right, that was operating
Three,
a 3
the mineral extraction was
extraction, then the
Harris Brothers,
4x4.
Hawaiian Rock and Smithbridge, back then when it started, from what I
Oh.
remember.
And the companies that are operating there, that was situated in that raceway,
The
remember we,
GU Ventures or something?
Yeah.
There were contractors that came in now.
so would we be liable if there was any lawsuit there, Mr. Chairman? You know what I mean with those
We shouldn't
operating
be.
there without license or?
I think GU Sports was approved by the board in the past. We can dig up the minutes from that, but I think the board had approved extra
yeah, so
activity there.
there is a lot of things that
Yeah.
we need to really dissect with the Guam Raceway, for sure. But that's just, that's kind of take us back to the traversing, the property that's being traversed, right? With Smithbridge. So, Joey, I think the one question I did have is, have we had any dialogue with Smithbridge on this yet?
Regarding this, no.
Okay.
We did, because Smithbridge is not our
They're not
current
our,
right of entry company, or we didn't reach out to them.
okay,
We did reach out to a representative from the Guam Racing Federation. Like I mentioned, we didn't receive any documents, any permits, any agreements, or anything like that, that gave Smithbridge the authorization to clear and to traverse through 7146.
okay,
Although we do, with the board's approval of a possible right of entry, we do intend to reach out now to Smithbridge, if the board should decide, and try to come to discuss how we can resolve this, so that at least they pay for the usage of the CHamoru Ranchers property, even if it's to drive through to their quarry. Like I mentioned, privacy and equal treatment is a concern of ours that we would like to raise to the board.
yes.
Quick Space is paying, they've been very persistent in trying to get the right of entry. They had their attorney come, all that great stuff, and they've been paying, even without any actual right of entry document. But and like I said, in the past, they've paid and they continue to pay, and they're on time.
Now, my next question is, in regards to the raceway, they still have an existing right of entry, correct?
It's expired.
Okay,
That's another
thing that we need to
issue we're gonna
address.
bring, yeah.
Okay, all right, so let's focus on this, and with the multitude of issues that we need to address, I think that we should start working through on every meeting and address one or two, and really engaging with Mr. Simpson on this. So that's, Commissioners, it's my hope we decide to engage with Smithbridge just to figure out what is the backstory here, how it happened, and then we can figure out what's the next steps. But at least just give the team the green light to move forward and have that dialogue, and ensuring that, you know, if we still communicate with the raceway, just hey, this is what we're going to do, right? So they're not necessarily caught blindsided.
Yeah, like if the board should agree to that a right of entry is sufficient or,
Yeah,
you know.
we'll figure out what that, once you have that dialogue and kind of get some backstory to this. Okay, so I guess, so Joey, just to clarify, you just want the commission to approve with engaging with Smithbridge in regards to how they've been given the authority to traverse through the property for that back and forth.
That's trespassing.
More so, consider granting Smithbridge a right of entry.
I think that's too premature.
Yeah,
to
just the dialogue first.
I just want to get some dialogue and information. I don't know if that needs to even be board approved,
Yeah,
but
just,
So, may I real quick, I think that one reason we would want to just, is also because it may be a detriment, or I have safety concerns if we close this off and Smithbridge is forced to go through, I believe it's Route 15, right? I believe it's safer for Smithbridge personnel as well as the community. Because those trucks, I don't know how safe it would be for them to go out to 15, and I could be wrong, you can
They
correct me
shouldn't be
if I'm
going
wrong.
out to Route 15 because they're using U-plates. They're not made for the one highway.
the highways.
They're
That's,
for quarry.
yeah, that's why I just think that it's beneficial for us to even consider this, because I guess the other option would be is not to allow it, but then I'm not sure how that's, it's not gonna be safe, I know that.
would that be something more?
Just to open a dialogue first.
Understood. Our intention was that if the board should consider a right of entry, our approach to it is, well, Smithbridge, you've been utilizing this, but the board has decided that a right of entry may be awarded or granted to you, and let's discuss the details of it. So when we come back next time, we present something in final form with the review and approval of our attorney, we come to some agreement, and, you know, but we can also do it.
I think that's still doable. Come back with a recommendation and we can approve
Yeah,
it.
and because we can approach them as the board had already granted an approval for us to discuss the option of a right of entry.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd say get through the bottom of it
Okay,
and put the recommendations out there.
okay,
I think a recommendation is that we can
okay.
halt any entry
Okay.
on our property. That's still an option.
We can do it either, it will work either.
So, do we need board approval for that, or just,
I think so, just so we don't.
so we're covered, that we
prematurely
can,
start-
to begin dialogue with
Yeah.
Bridge in regards
Don't
to
start
this?
making a decision and everything.
Okay, all right,
Okay, Mr. Chairman, okay.
Commissioner Herrera.
I would like to make a preliminary approval to authorize the usage of lot 7164 in Jigu and to open a dialogue for the consideration of a rights of entry with Smithbridge.
is that all right?
It's a preliminary
It's a
approval.
preliminary
It's not
approval.
approved yet, but it's a preliminary
We can
approval
offer
to
it.
dialogue.
So to dialogue that this is an option?
And then come back and we'll see
And come
what's
up,
the.
and we can
I
always
mean,
decide to
it's
close it.
open, it's
Okay.
open, but,
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay,
right, preliminary, so.
all right, so, sorry, Commissioner, I didn't mean to detract the motion, but could you restate, please?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to do a preliminary approval to authorize Smithbridge and CHamoru Land Trust Commission to dialogue for the consideration of a rights of entry on lot 7164 in Jigu.
Commissioner Berdalio, any objections?
No.
Okay, hearing none, the motion passes to begin the dialogue of a preliminary approval for a right of entry for lot 7164, municipality of Jigo with Smithbridge. Okay, Tina, we're good with that? Okay. Attorney Toft, we're good with that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That was good. Again, if I could ask, next meeting, to figure out what's our next item that we could address with Mr. Simpson, you know, with the team, talk through things administratively, and then what we can bring to the board. So,
I think one of the first issues we should address is the expiration of their right of entry.
okay,
I'm not too sure, I understand that business licenses have expired or are going to expire between June and now. So I'm not too sure if they were able to renew their business license on an expired right of entry, so that may be something to consider, but we'll put together the list.
Yeah, and again, we're not trying to halt anything, we want to make sure that we have that right of entry, and everything is kosher, and we'll continue to work through what are the next steps.
So just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, it's to continue to allow for raceway activities, correct?
Yes. Oh yeah, raceway activities, all the activities up there aside from mineral extraction.
Wait, clarify that again?
We're addressing the right of entry for raceway activities.
No,
Raceway
no, no,
activities.
we're,
Drag racing and.
no, the right of entry for Smith Bridge
Oh, no,
to
no.
pass through.
This is
We're talking
for raceway,
Oh.
so this is done. So we're just.
Oh, okay.
So we want to address the expired
On
right of
raceway.
entry for the
And-
raceway.
And that would be the next.
Okay, I didn't see that on the agenda, so.
Yeah, so we're
Sidewalk.
saying.
Huh?
Sidewalk.
No, I think what we're saying is, the chairman asked us to continue addressing the issues because there are many,
Oh,
right?
with the raceway.
So
Yes.
we're thinking
Right,
that the
yes.
next thing to bring to the board would be the right of entry, and I'm just making it clear for raceway activities.
Yes,
We'll be specific,
yes.
I have to because.
so far as drag
Yeah.
racing, motocross.
Because these guys are looking for a 50-year lease, an additional 50 years.
I think I think
They'll do the
that's.
research.
The
Yeah.
initial law allowed, I think, for 25 or 50 years, you're correct.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Since that law, the 180 days has lapsed, we can no longer utilize that
Yeah.
law.
Correct,
It'd have to go back to the legislature.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time too, we're trying to do our best to find a baseline or starting point insofar as how much land was there prior to it being extracted, so we can ascertain whether we were paid the right amount of money or not.
Okay, all right, thank you guys.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks guys, appreciate that. Okay, all right, next up on our agenda is our constituent matters. We have 2 on the docket today. I believe, first up will be for Ms. Guerrero, and it's Jessica, Ms. Dede, and Mr. A. If you can please join us. I do see Ms. Guerrero on the line, so Ms. Guerrero, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, thank you. We can hear you too, so thank you for joining us. Again, for the record, Ms. Guerrero, could you just quickly state your name?
Lorette Guerrero.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that, if possible, could she turn on her camera?
Oh yeah, sure. Ms. Guerrero, if you can, or if you're able, if you can turn on your camera?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using a laptop that doesn't have
A camera?
camera's broken.
Okay, no worries. But yeah, we can hear you okay, and then if at any point you can't hear us, please let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first up on our constituent matters for today is Ms. Guerrero, and we have Ms. Jessica and Mr. A. So for the record, if you please state your names.
Company Commissioners, my name is, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director, my name is Glenn A. I'm from CHamoru Land Trust, I'm a land agent too.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Happy Day Commission. I'm Jessica Dede, and I'm a land agent with the CHamoru Land Trust Commission.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. A, I will let you begin. I know that this has been before the commission a couple times, and maybe we can begin with what may have changed or transpired, and then we can go from there. Ms. Camacho, do you have anything to add to that?
Just so the commissioners are aware, there has been a second claim made against the commission.
Okay,
And that is with legal counsel,
okay, and that has been made with the AG's office.
with the AG's office.
Okay, all right, just for the commissioner's awareness. Okay.
Claim for lease? I-
Just a claim that was filed with the AG's
Oh.
office.
I'm not clear, yeah.
So
I
this
don't-
is the second claim made to the AG's office against the commission. So now we have 2.
Okay, just for awareness, for the record.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Mr. A, let's go ahead and proceed. And Ms. Guerrero, if you have any questions, just please let me know, and then we can formally address you as we go through the process. Again, Mr. A, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's I want to begin. I think the commissioners we had the initial dialogue back in earlier this year. I'll probably butcher the date, and then we did March. Okay, and then we did have Ms. Guerrero come before us during public comments, and I know that there were working sessions with you, Ms. Guerrero, and Attorney Toft and Ms. Camacho. So I want to kind of get us to where we're at today. Anything that may have changed from what we've, what the commissioners know. And then I think we're at the point where we can make a decision of how to proceed. So I just wanted to set the stage there and have you begin.
Okay, just for a quick recap on
sure.
the last meeting on March 17, 2022 commission meeting. Issues involved was no clearing and grading permit, no approval for CLTC commission for a building permit. Those were the issues that was discussed, very lengthy during our last meeting. And just several, may I will mention some of them that we discussed. On March 24, 2021, Ms. Guerrero requested information regarding application building authorization. March 25th, 2021, Jessica Dady replied, those authorizations require board approval as well. And Ms. Dady also informed Ms. Guerrero that she's in they were unable to schedule a meeting for the month of June and July of last year due to the schedule was really tight, you couldn't fit her in. And also we also went through learned that Ms. Guerrero had a VA loan that was approved sometime in December, which CLTC was not made aware of. And on February 24, 2022, CLTC conducted, on February 11, 2022, Ms. Guerrero requested a UT authorization. The following days, a CLTC staff conducted a site inspection and found that the contractor had already cleared the subject lot and commenced with the building foundation. They had started the project without her consent. So March 14, 2022, an order of cease and desist of all activities was served to Ms. Guerrero so that they, to stop the project rather, and so that we can conduct further investigation and find out what's going on. So on March 17, 2022, board commission meeting, the order of cease and desist remains in effect from staff finding that was presented to the commissioners. And towards the end of the discussion, the board decided to hold off to the next meeting for further research on how she obtained the lease. So that's where we want to continue from now.
Okay.
But the lease was, how she obtained the lease was in question. And Ms. Dady was able to find to get some facts from her findings on how she got her lease, where some of them were not it was questionable. But what I wanted to bring up too was one of the questions that Ms. Guerrero asked in the last meeting that she addressed, and she stated, quote, the former commissioner, Ms. Ika, we met with the board, we went through the whole process, there are minutes in line with the meeting, and that I was issued my lease. So there's no question about problems with the lease at the time, and was all addressed, right? So I got these, we're fine and dandy. Now, you're telling me there's something wrong with my lease. What is it? End quote. So to answer, and then I was thinking, okay, about her question. So I went back and reviewed the March 19 minutes. And
Of what year, Mr. A?
I'm sorry?
March 19 of 2020?
I'm sorry, March 21, 2019 minutes.
Okay.
Is that correct? I reviewed March 21, 2019 minutes.
Okay.
And Laura Guerrero requested to process her residential application as a descendant of a pre-occupier. Chairwoman Feharan stated, she quotes, she would be comfortable understanding Laura Guerrero's lineage and the Feharan family's occupying since 1950s, or even before then, and is comfortable honoring their pre-occupier status, end quote. So, the last chairwoman, when she decided to award the lease based on, because she was comfortable knowing the lineage of the Feha family, disregarding other facts where there was a letter from the mayor's office stating that when she, at 2009, where she states that doesn't show when she was actually, the date and time she occupied the said property, and there was also no site inspection or any photos whatsoever that supports the claim. When you're going to award somebody a lease, you gotta have all these facts and the documents set in place, but none of those were presented. It's just that she felt comfortable with the lineage. So that I find kind of like troublesome, where you make a decision where there are no facts, just based on pre-occupiers status. And like I said, there was no photos or any documentation showing that any farming or any type of activity was within the property other than overgrown vegetation, which we have a photo of 2016. And furthermore, findings, we also was able to get a letter from the mayor of Manila, Alan Conta.
Mr. A, just real quick, let me just take a quick pause. And for the commissioners, right, I think, are you guys following the I think we're on page,
we're on a P, Papa,
P, we're on
Quebec,
P in the,
Romeo.
yep. So let me just take a quick pause. Any questions in regards to Mr. A and in regards to how this was approved back in 2019? Any questions there?
When we're following, we'll make him, I'm okay.
Okay,
I just
okay
want
so
him-
far?
I want
We're following?
to hear his
Yeah.
whole,
Okay, I just want to make sure we're following because I'm
yeah.
trying to make sure I follow too.
Yeah, I'm the staff report is there, but I'm just putting.
No, understood,
Yeah,
understood.
I'm not putting it in order, as you see.
Yeah, but we're, I just want to make sure everyone's
But
following.
they're documented, and there's
From the staff.
also exhibits there that was.
Okay. So make sure, because I'm making sure I'm trying to follow, so,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I just tried to shorten our
no
conversation
problem.
here.
You're doing good.
So, like I just mentioned, we also discovered, we also have a letter from Mayor Anganta stating that they are in a receipt of transfer of residence document from Dedido, Mayor's office dated January 9, 2009, resident transferring form, house number 188, Ngura. Okay, this one again, a letter from the mayor stating that they are receipt of a transfer of residence where from Ms. Guerrero, where she was occupying and living in Dedido, and also now occupying 5402 and Fair Street, Manila. In addition to that, March 28, we also have a letter from the Vice Mayor of Dedido. The letter stating that Ms. Guerrero has been in and out from the village of Dedido. That's found in Exhibit A. Again, this letter verifies that Ms. Guerrero has been in and out from the village of Dedido, whereas Ms. Guerrero stated she presently resides and continuously resides in CHamoru Land Trust property prior to July 12, 1995. So we have two letters from the mayor's office that puts her out of place. Not at the time where she says she's currently occupying since 1995 at 5402. And we have mayor's letters stating that she was residing in Twinning, she was residing in Dedido, and so forth. And part of the requirement for, as a pre-occupier, you have to be present and continually occupying the premises, where supposedly the land use permit or where you were occupying, even not as an LEP, but occupying or staying on government land. It's either or. And what I just mentioned right now, the two letters, it does not, her claims has no bearing on her, like as she mentioned, that she is presently and continuing occupying the said property. So I also have Ms. Day also that can still has some comments also as far as a preoccupier.
So, Ms. Guerrero is basing herself as a descendant of a preoccupier, right? Which is her great-grandfather, I believe, Francisco Fea, who had a land use permit in 1950. Nothing prior and nothing after. However, that LUP was then used by one of his children. And from there, she was able to renew that LUP or the Arendu every year from 1970 up to 1994. Okay, there's documentation, it's recorded that the child of Francisco Fea was, using that property. And prior to 1994, up to 1996, there was only one residential unit in that area that was used by Francisco Fea, right? And that's his child who was living there for 50 plus years.
Okay.
So that's what I have with the LUP. My findings on who took over that LUP or continue to use that property.
Up through what year? 96 is what I'm understanding? Up to 96?
Yes.
Up through 96?
No, she continued, and I believe her, now that the great-grandchildren, the grandchildren of Francisco Fea currently lives there.
Okay. Who is, Ms. Loretta is a descendant of?
So
Yes.
her grandmother, I believe, is the sister of the person who was presently and currently occupying that property. However, the daughter of Francisco Fea had passed away. That was the one who was using the property.
Okay.
That was our findings.
Okay,
Yes,
but there's lineage there. I mean, I'm just trying to understand that there is relation.
Yes, there is relation.
So
Okay.
Francisco Fea on his LUP, yes, there was 4 hectares, right? However, when the daughter took over and she continued on with her own year by year, it was decreased because due to non-payment. You know how you have to pay every year. She didn't make the payment according.
And we have
to the
documentation
letters.
of that.
Yes.
Okay. And we have documentation of it decreasing.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask who
Yes,
who's
please.
the wife of
Do we have
Don
the,
Francisco Fea?
No, his daughter.
Or the daughter on the land use permit
Correct.
from 1950 to
So she took
1970?
over the 1950 LUP.
I
Ms.
see.
Francisco Fea's LUP was 1950.
I see.
There was nothing prior and there was nothing, I mean, that we could find. The only record we have is the 1950,
And this Miss Lorette, this is the grandpa?
the great-grandfather.
Okay,
so this is Ms. Guerrero's great-grandfather?
Correct,
yeah.
according to Ms. Guerrero, yes.
Okay, all right. So there is lineage there, okay? I don't think that was a question, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we found that there is an LUP, for one reason or the other, it was decreased in size due to non-payment and documentation that we have. Okay, so where do we go now from here?
So the Francisco Fea's daughter took over that LUP
Right,
on that property.
okay,
And according to the findings, there was only one residential unit prior to 1994 up to 1996 on the area where she was living. However, on the other side, there was just overgrown vegetation.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Guerrero, go ahead.
Oh, no,
I mean, Ms.
Yeah.
Guerrero is stating she's a preoccupier because she is living with her parents. But how can you claim preoccupier if the person has a lease, right?
oh,
I mean, are you able, you know, does she really have a valid claim to that? I mean, because there's a lease already issued to the person who was on that property, does she really have a valid claim to that, being a preoccupier?
So is that still an active LUP? Or, because it's not a lease, right?
It's on the lease page already.
Who's the lease under?
No, the LUP was used by Francisco Fea's daughter.
Okay,
So the one that Lorette Guerrero is talking about is she's living with her parents. So her parents are the ones who have the lease.
okay.
On
So
what,
that's where she's claiming
On
preoccupied.
this property?
On the other side,
On
yeah.
the other side, okay.
what lot number? Because you have the lot 19-9, tract 15213, Menguelo?
That was awarded to her by CHamoru Land Trust. So the thing is, she's claiming preoccupier, but not for that property she was awarded a lease to. She's claiming preoccupier on the property that her father
on the
has.
agriculture side, not on the lease, not on the property that was
She's
leased.
claiming the leased property as a preoccupier, because her father has a lease for that property.
And her father is Francisco also?
Emmanuel Guerrero.
Okay, there.
And what is the lot 5402 Kiko Feja Street?
That's the same one, but when they surveyed the property, it changed the description from the lot 5402. And then Ms. Guerrero surveyed the property.
Okay.
So what would be the land size, the square meters? For
I'm not
both?
sure the square meters, but I know hers is a half acre.
Agriculture.
No, Ms. Guerrero is residential,
Okay,
but the ones around her, surrounding her, are agriculture.
and Emmanuel Guerrero is the father.
Correct.
And how's he tied into Francisco?
That is so he's the grandson of Francisco Feja.
Carrying a Guerrero.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe his mother is Francisco Feja's daughter.
Okay, that's where it changed from the mother. Okay, so
Okay, so
I'm trying to find out, Mr.
Right.
Chairman,
what's next? So my question, can it be, Commissioner, may I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so my question is, the previous board already approved this. We can tie lineage, right, all the way down to Ms. Guerrero being the great-granddaughter of Senor
Francisco
Fea.
Fea.
Okay. It may be, in my understanding, it's two different properties, right, of where the actual LUP is designated, right, versus the other property, which is where Ms. Guerrero is building, is that
No,
correct?
okay, actually, okay, so Francisco Fea, his area was 40 hectares.
Okay, so that was decreased,
It was decreased when his daughter took over the LUP.
okay. Okay, so it decreased, but is this property that Ms. Guerrero has began work on, that same property of which was Mr. Francisco Fea?
It's in the same basic lot.
Same basic law?
I'm
Yes,
pretty
so it
sure.
is, and then it got subdivided.
No, it just got decreased.
You guys got-
Yeah, decreased by.
But is it still within the
Still within
realm?
the basic lot.
Is it still an approved lot that is Chamorro Land Trust, basically?
Yes,
Mm.
however, CHamoru Land Trust did place other people, other than the Fea family, on that property.
Okay,
A lease was issued, but you know, if you don't, I guess with surveying and whatnot, you can't really say, okay, they were here, right?
true,
Because
but then
the
once
lease says.
once surveys are happened, then you now have boundaries,
Mhm.
correct?
Well, the thing was, some people were moved from those areas.
Okay,
So that's the thing is Chamorro Land, at that time, Chamorro Land Trust placed people there already. So you can't really claim a place where it was vacant and Chamorro Land Trust put people there already. I
Right.
mean, how can you,
but I'm
How
still,
can you
what,
claim that?
what, again, with what you have found, that
Mhm.
there was or is an LUP that
Mhm.
has moved, transpired down through lineage, right, next in line, right, through the family. So is that not considered preoccupier?
she can say she's a preoccupier, she can use the LUP whatnot, right?
Because it's been in place, right, and even
And
if
but
it's
the
been.
thing is, we're not evicting her from the property she's claiming she's occupying, which is her father's property, which he has a lease for.
Okay,
She's not claiming the property that was awarded to her,
to the family,
right, to her.
to her, which is,
That we awarded the lease to her.
Chamorro Land
She's-
Trust.
Yeah, she's claiming that she's living with her parents. That's the property she's claiming she's a preoccupier on. So she can be a preoccupier, but,
but it's not the
the property she
parcel
was
that
a-
she has been awarded.
correct,
Okay,
that she was awarded to.
okay, all right, so if.
I'm sorry, can Mr. Chairman, can I say something?
Yes,
So,
is there something we're missing?
yes, actually, what Ms. Day is saying about me taking claim to the property that I have been issued a lease for is adjacent to my father's property.
Next door,
And before, yes, right next to it.
okay,
Now, all that's there, right, is prior to the construction, all that was there was crops, farming, right? That's all I could do with the property. Because I don't have approval to build anything on it. So all I can do is farm on it.
okay,
But where I lay my head is right next to it, which is under my father's roof.
okay,
So, because I don't have a house on that property, I can't go to the mayor's office and says I'm living there, right? Unless I'm gonna, plant myself on the ground and sleep on it, then I can say, okay, I live there, because I'm sleeping on the ground. But that's the property, that that the property that Chamorro Land Trust issued to me is the property that's right next to or adjacent to my father's property.
okay,
So I'm not trying to claim my father's property. He's got his own lease,
right,
and I have my own. But my property and my father's property and the adjacent properties surrounding us those are properties that were occupied by my great-grandfather. And initially, he had 4 hectares, and yes, it did go down, it dropped down to 1, but our family never moved.
Okay.
We stayed there. And prior to 1995, the government did not come in and evict us.
Right,
We stayed there and we continue to stay there
okay.
to this day.
Understood, understood. And then I think that's what they drew out for us, yeah. Okay, all right. So in essence, it's next door. It's still within the hectare, I guess is what's remaining? Yes or no?
It went down to half acre.
Okay, but it's still within what has been one big property decreased to what it is today,
Within the basic lot.
within the lot? Okay, okay,
And-
all right,
and
thank you,
If I
Ms.
could,
Didn't
if I could just add,
Sure,
lot 5402 is made up of, I believe, 1,100,000 something.
well, it's a portion of, right, it's a portion of,
Yeah.
yeah. Until it gets renamed, or it gets renamed when
Yeah.
it's surveyed and so on, yeah.
What we
Okay.
also have to
So
consider.
in 2013, it was recognized, my lot was recognized as a portion of lot 5402. That was in 2013. In 2016, it was then recognized as lot 19. It's still the same lot.
Yeah.
It just changed names
Correct,
in a matter of 3 years.
yes, understood.
Also, sir, we have to consider that in an LUP, in many cases, in all cases, where property size were, say, example, 10 acres, and then the transition from LUP to the CHamoru Land Trust, if you're gonna make claims to the property, we're not gonna give you that 10 acre. We're gonna give you what you're actually occupying, which actually maybe half acre or 1 acre at the most.
Yeah.
That's our normal
Understood, yes.
practice, so you can't claim the 8 or 10 acres, and then just keep carrying it down for your grandkids or great grandkids or whatever. Right now, from what we just mentioned, that it went down to a half acre, there's no more claims there already. Also, as a pre-occupier, we have to consider that as a pre-occupier, what are the requirements? You have to be there, back for 1995, and presently there, and continuing to be there and maintaining and using the property. But in Ms. Guerrero's case, she was in and out of the place. And that disqualifies her already from a pre-occupier. I cannot go to the States and come back 10 years later and say, I'm a pre-occupier, I want my property, I'm descendant. I can't do that. You have to be continually occupying the property and maintaining the property. That's the requirement on the public law.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I have a few hands raised here, Ms. Guerrero. Ms. Camacho?
A question for Mr. Ye and Jessica. What is the lot size of Ms. Guerrero's father? His lease, what size is that?
Do we know?
If I'm not, it's not more than 1 acre. Not more than 1 acre.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
So he currently has up to 1 acre. The lot that Lorette grew up on is.
Let's say he has a 1 acre, and then if they could reduce the size to another half acre, if it is truly a 1 acre.
Okay.
And then, that's the subdivision law for the ag. You can, provided that you have a half acre lot for ag. So,
But if he did subdivide it, it doesn't necessarily mean he can give it to his child or anybody that he wishes to. I believe that if he subdivides it and reduces the size, we go back to our list.
if the father decides that he wants to subdivide it for the kids, you're correct, you have to go back to the list. Suppose the son is number 10. Yes, they qualify, but we have to go give to number 9, give them that opportunity, or number 8.
Understood.
Yeah,
I
so,
mean,
yeah.
there's a process
It's
to
a
that.
process,
But,
yes.
you know,
We have to follow.
unless they're the beneficiary, if they're
Right.
deceased,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Guerrero, did you have something to say? I just want to make sure we captured everyone's.
Yeah, so Mr. A and Ms. Day, they keep going back to the LUP and my father's property. all this and that, right? But according to the pre-occupier law, it talks about presently continuously residing prior to July 12, 1995. Now, was I there prior to, was I presently continuously residing on that property prior to July 12, 1995? Yes. And I've also provided documentation, showing that my father was occupying, his portion of the property, within that area. But was I there prior to 1995? Yes. And there's no law that requires me to register myself at the mayor's office to say, oh, I live in Dedidale, but I'm farming in Manila, or I'm occupying Manila. There's no law that says I have to report that to the mayor's office. In fact, there's no law that requires us to register with the mayor's office where we're living at. I could have two residences at one time if I wanted to. But the fact is, was I there prior to 1995? Yes. Am I a descendant of my great-grandfather? Yes. Was the land, the lot 19 that I'm occupying now, was that a portion of lot 542? Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ms. Guerrero. Attorney Toft, question for you. So I think that's kind of what I was going along the lines of, from a preoccupier standpoint, and I understand, what Mr. A had described in regards to continuously living, but then there's there's a cutoff point, right, prior to 1995, where you continuously living in that area. So Attorney Toft, given just what Ms. Guerrero had just kind of walked us through in regards to, she may be living somewhere else but farming here, is this something that can still be part as a factor for a preoccupier standpoint?
Yes, and I think that's what the previous board kind of hung their hat on as well, was that this was a family lot. There were the family members living on the lot. It was a much bigger lot that got reduced. And the language of that 6.4, I forget what the current code section, whatever they codified it as, but the preoccupier section doesn't require the person to be a lessee prior to 1995, just as resident. So I think that was when in that prior board meeting, they were considering all the members of the household who had lived there under the previous LUP, not just the person who the name of the LUP was under.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
Also,
hang on. I think, let me just state this, and the commission obviously needs to make the decision. However, I think we've exhausted this enough.
okay.
Just given what Attorney Toft has shared with us, given this new findings of the LUP prior to 1995, I think we've exhausted this enough. I think that we should consider just this eligibility piece. We honor what has already been approved by the board, and we need to move forward. That's kind of where I'm at this juncture, because we could stay here all night and debate this, but I think we got to draw the line somewhere. And I understand, again, this is not my decision right now, but this is kind of where I want to make sure we have this dialogue with the commissioners, is, are we going to continue to belabor this, or do we, given what we just kind of worked through with Attorney Toft and with Ms. Guerrero and Ms. Day and Mr. A, we just got to draw the line somewhere, right? And if we make this decision, we need to know that going forward, these are decisions that we need to, this interpretation or how we're going to decide on this is how we manage it going forward. Because at the end of the day, we're in the 4th or 5th meeting, right? And we're still trying to figure this out from just how the lease was acquired. I think what we need to do is maybe move forward and address the next issue, and not necessarily this piece anymore. I just wanted to take a quick pause there, and maybe give the commissioners some time to also, just think of what we just walked through with Mr. A, Ms. Dede, and Attorney Toft, and Ms. Guerrero. So I'm gonna just take a quick pause and turn it over to my commissioners to see if they have any additional questions to ask, to make sure it's clear, and if we decide to move this way, but it's just kind of in just understanding what we went through today.
Well, all I can say is the FEHAS had the arrendu. Then CHamoru Land Trust came in and they implemented the CHamoru Land Trust to give the lands to our people. So I see it as a grandfather thing, because CHamoru Land Trust did take back some of that land, but left some for the FEHAS. So we should honor what should be now what they have.
In regards to that lineage?
Yeah.
Commissioner Herrera?
I'd like to hear our administrative director's position. before I
Sometimes
make-
laws and
I understand.
everything,
I just like.
sometimes makes it difficult for us to make those decisions. But sometimes we have to look at it outside the box and try to understand it.
Yeah. And
Good point.
to add to that, a decision has already been made.
Yeah.
And I did want to see how did all of this transpire. I think we're seeing it. We see
Yes.
how it has transpired. And it's not necessary. To Commissioner Berdalio's point, sometimes it doesn't allow us to act, right?
Okay.
However, if it has been acted on and we're comfortable with that decision and we just move forward, and then there's two other issues that we need to address. So
Okay.
that's my stance. I'm just wanting to make sure that dialogue is out there, and take a pause, because we could go through this for hours on end. But to Commissioner's Herrera's point, if Ms.
Yeah, just to hear.
Camacho has an additional.
Because we heard from our staff members that has done
So
a
the
tedious
other-
work
yeah.
to research it.
Yeah.
And I'd like for them to have my back on this too. So, correct me if I'm wrong, pre-occupier qualifications is that they occupy and continue to occupy. So, and I apologize for belaboring this, but it's not just that you occupied it and then relocated, it's that you continue to occupy. So I believe the intent of it is that we do not evict, and we are not evicting.
Understood. We're not. That's definitely not what is even being discussed. Correct. Yes.
And
But
we're
we're
not,
just the occupy and continues to occupy.
Yes.
Can I add to that? I agree with you, Director. We're not here to evict this. Correct. She's already been through a lot already, and it just like you mentioned about the question about preoccupying. We put that aside, But the only last thing I just want to comment, when the act, when you Public Code 23-38, when we issue a lease, the lease has to be issued out by the date and time. In this case, the application date is 2006. So, what are we gonna do with that? The date and time was, yes,
It's already been issued.
it's date and
The
time.
lease has already been issued.
And so this is gonna set precedence to others that are date and time, that are 2010, that have leased, then that would be the issue then.
Understood.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
No, understood. And
Yes.
we've had these same challenges, and we're
Right.
going to continue to have to address them. We've been, how did they get there? But they got there and they got approved,
Okay.
and they got issued. I'm not trying to say that we're going to circumvent it, but if it's been ratified, signed off, and all three signatures are there, I mean, I get it, right? We are opening ourselves up for that. right? But again, we haven't made a decision, but we have everything on the table now in regards to moving forward and just leave this piece alone, and we need to move forward. And but I want to make sure our commissioners, we have all the information in front of us. Yes, we make this decision today, it's going to set some precedents. But guess we have to also, those who get handled, we need to issue 95s. Okay. We gotta bifurcate our efforts, and we gotta start issuing the 95s, and we're making progress to that. We're always gonna have the problems. It's never gonna go away. And if the commission decides we leave this alone and move forward and approve everything that needs to be approved in order for this house to get built, we put our stamp of approval there, and all the issues that come through, we deal with it just like we did with this, and go through the motion, right? The fact that you found the LUP from 1950, is that something that we found just recently?
Actually, it was Mr. Raro who gave that to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and what was the, go ahead.
No, and see, that's what I mean. Like, it took us this long, but it's helping the case in that sense of, here's what has existed. Here's the larger parcel, smaller parcel, et cetera, et cetera. But guys, Dispensa, Saina, we just can't, we're going to continue to see this every single time. Let's put our focus on the 95s to get those leases, new leases out. We'll have to deal with this. And if it's one case at a time every 3 months, it's one case at a time every 3 months. That's just where I think we need to, we've taken the time. The team has done a really good job in the research. Ms. Guerrero has also done her research. Attorney Toft has given us some type of guidance in how to address this. We know the risk, but an issue, the lease has been issued. I just don't know what we could do then move forward, right? But that's just what I want to make sure we address, knowing what we know today. And for our commissioners, right, that's a task at hand. And are we willing to take that stance and have to deal with each case one by one as they come up? But guess what? We can issue 30 new leases, hopefully, and pray to God, in the next 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. So that's where I stand. I just want to, and please ask the questions.
Just one question. The
Yes.
land use permit is what number?
That's on the,
Remember, this started in 1950?
Yes.
And then it was shut down at the time when the Land for the Land Lease program,
Right.
like you mentioned.
In the 90s.
Arrendus, and then the,
No, land for the land lease is different from the
After-
rental.
Yeah.
but remember, the Land for the Land Lease came from the CHamoru Land Trust inventory that was
Yeah, they sold the land.
surgically cut out from the
Yeah,
CHamoru Land Trust inventory.
right.
And that's how we came to here.
Sure.
So,
well,
and if no land use
they
permit, it's
have-
okay.
yeah, she had multiple,
Okay, but the first issued land use permit in 1950?
50, the older one from Francisco Feja.
Yes, that one.
I know that.
If not, then it's okay.
But we have documentation that we
yes,
have a copy of.
Ms. Guerrero submitted that part. She
Okay.
gave us that one, because we didn't have Francisco Feja's own records.
Okay.
But she had the copy of
She's the one that gave us the copy.
of
The
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 land use.
reason we don't have the records is because we, when they gave us the land use permit records, or those who are currently occupying, that are still on the property. that's
Actively.
Actively.
Yeah.
Went
So-
to their own file.
Right, so that's why we don't have records
Okay.
per se, for way back in 1950.
I understand, because that land use permit had three categories. Those that had their properties fully condemned by the federal government, priority 1.
Right.
Then 2 and 3.
Okay.
And then it has the year by year by year payment and
Yeah.
Well, the one
validation.
with Francisco Feja, there was nothing prior to 1950 and there was nothing after.
Okay,
It went to his, I believe, his daughter, and then I know his son has the same name, so
Oh.
he also had one.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Commissioner
Okay.
Herrera, any other questions?
That's it. I like to commend the staff for
Yes.
doing this work.
Yes, no, 100%. And it took a long time, but,
Yeah.
and a lot of meetings, but it got us where we're at today.
And it's a lesson learned for all the other applicants that are coming in, and we like to use this
Yes,
as a model.
correct.
Anyway, may I make a motion?
Yes, give me just one second before we take action. Commissioners, I just want to make sure everyone's aligned, with the motion that you're going to make, right?
Okay.
And that we're all comfortable. Again, the decision we make today is going to follow suit for others. However, they'll be the issues we take up every time, right? And our goal is 95.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
I do have one question to. No, I don't have any more questions. Sorry.
So when you make your motion, it's not for her to get the lease, it's just for her to move forward with the building, right? The building permit authorization,
Because the lease is already there.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what you're going to.
No, right now is
It's just if we're gonna move forward with the building for her request.
yes. Well, I'm sorry. Two things, Commissioner Herrera, real quick.
Okay.
If are we deciding to move? We're moving forward without having to with the decisions that were made with the previous board.
Mm.
Is that the decision? We're keeping everything as is in
Correct.
regards to the lease, in regards to, basically we're just
That's it.
we're not.
It's just been all the way.
Yeah.
Right, that's
Yeah.
the,
So that would be yeah, so the cease and desist, and then.
To retract the
also-
cease and desist.
And then her building permit authorization,
authorized.
yeah,
Will
from
be
the board,
granted,
the authority from the board.
Mm.
Okay, and then we don't need to touch on the previous decision from the board. There's no decision on that. It's just where that stayed.
It stays.
That stays. Okay? Commissioners, again, that's what we have in front of us is the decision from the board previously stands. The
Permit to get
permit the cease and desist gets retracted,
Yes.
and the permit authorizations,
The building permit
building permit
authorization.
authorization
Acknowledge that.
will need to be approved.
Right.
Because already there was a clearing,
And the UT also.
Utilities,
and then utility authorization for her to move on with the construction.
okay, so utility authorization, building permit, and that's it. Oh, and retract cease and desist.
I retract.
Okay.
And I don't know what else she's requesting, but that's the one.
Well, these are the one
Yeah.
things for me is the only way to move forward, right? We're not addressing, we're keeping, the board, the commissioners decide if we keep what the previous board had decided and the lease issued. Now it's just time to move on. But we did, the legwork was done. We understand where we're at, and I think that's. So, commissioners, any questions? Any additional questions before that motion's made?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Herrera.
You do it. You're good at it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect,
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to rescind the order to cease and desist on Ms. Lorette Tenorio Guerrero's dated on March 14, 2022, and to move forward and approve the UT authorization and the building permit authorization.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Herrera. May I
Plus
get a
power.
second?
Plus power.
Yeah, UT for the
Bottled water.
GPA and
UT's
GWA.
for, yeah.
For the UT for the water and power.
Yeah. May I get a second?
I second.
Okay, any objections?
No.
Okay, hearing none, the motion has passed to rescind the cease and desist, to approve the building permit and the UT authorization for Ms. Lorette Tenorio Guerrero. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. This was a big one, and this is a tough one that we will hang our hats on, and we'll have to deal with going forward. Mr. A, is there any other outstanding issues?
No, we addressed it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Guerrero?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you for your patience as we went through this, with the numerous meetings, but I think the team has done a great job along with your assistance to get us to where we're at today. Do you have any questions, concerns, or comments?
Actually, for the building permit, can you just include building a clearing permit? That way we're just
The clearing
clear.
is
She already has a clearing, so the only thing
So
that she really needs from the board is the building permit authorization, because the director was able to approve a clearing.
Yeah, the clearing was already approved, Ms. Guerrero, it's just the building permit that needs to come through the board.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Any other questions, ma'am?
Thank you, Commissioners, no, I do not, thank you.
Okay, so going forward, if there's any other issues that may arise, please ensure to work through with Mr. A and Miss Jessica Dede, and we wish you well in completing this process.
Thank you, and, please, if anything else comes up, let me know, you have my email.
Okay, thank you. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next up on our agenda for Constituent Matters is for Mr. Eddie Concepcion Muña. And may I ask who's the land agent?
Are you tabling that?
I wanted to know if I can move forward with it.
Are you ready to move forward, or should we?
Yes, but if I can just run and get the file real quick.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
Do we have Mr. Muña here? Do we need Mr. Muña? No? Okay. Okay. All right, Ms. Dede, thank you.
Do I have to say my name again?
No, you're
Okay, so, with this case, I have Mr. Eddie Concepcion Muña. I just want to let you know before we move on, is that one of the land agents, Mr. A, Glenn A, is opposed to this.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that, and then you can.
Where did he go?
He's
I'm right here.
But Mr. A did sign off on this to bring to the board?
I'm sorry, he retracted his.
Okay, so that's for the record. Mr. A has retracted his signature on review and approved, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so this case is Eddie Concepcion Muña. He's an agricultural lessee. And the issue is emergency transfer of an agricultural lease to Serena Muña Sanchez. And then I guess we wouldn't really have to do the qualifications, right? Because it was granted to the director of this meeting? Or do we still have to qualify?
That was just recently, so yes, I would get through the entire process here, yes.
Okay, so, and then to qualify Serena Muña Sanchez as an eligible beneficiary of the CHamoru Land Trust Commission. So the applicant date and time is January 9, 2001 at 2:16 p.m. Application number 5499. Application type is an agriculture. He's a preoccupier. There's a mayor certification signed by Mayor Melissa Savares. Land use permit dated February 22, 1994, LUP number 4093. There was a notice of intent that was awarded for lot 10122-18, signed by Administrative Director T. Elliott. There was a lease signing January 31st, 2019, signed by the CLTC Chairwoman G. Pika Feheran. Board approved on January 17, 2019, and recorded under document number 931028. The location is Lot 3, Block 17, Tract 10316 in the municipality of Dededo. Lot size is 8,140 square meters, or 2 acres. Survey authorization was dated January 31st, 2019, signed by Acting Administrative Director Paul Santos. There's no survey map. My findings is Public Law 23-38, Section 7.5, Transfer of Leases. Request for transfer will be considered for approval only if the lessee has held such a lease for a period of at least 7 years. But in this case, unless the commission, in its considered opinion, finds that an emergency exists which makes the transfer imperative. There is a physician certification and notarized request to transfer the lease from Eddie Muña to Serena Muña, and that was submitted August 11, 2020. The birth certificates of Antonio, so this one goes into the qualifications of Serena.
Okay.
So the birth certificate of Antonio Jr. Sablon, father of Serena Sanchez, death certificate of Magdalena Conception, judgment and declaration of taking was submitted, and based on the research, Serena Muña Sanchez is the direct descendant of Magdalena Conception. So Eddie Conception Muña is an agricultural lessee requesting an emergency transfer of his lease to Serena Muña Sanchez. She is the niece and attorney in fact. Mr. Muña had fallen ill and is unable to fulfill the requirements to be in compliance with this lease agreement. Eddie Muña is currently, at the time I did this report, he was currently residing in a healthcare facility, and his home is not safe and easily accessible. Serena Sanchez would like to build a safe and comfortable place for Mr. Muña to call home and be cared for by family. Mrs. Sanchez is aware of the agricultural requirements which she has presently and continuously been maintaining. My recommendation is to approve an emergency transfer of Eddie Conception Muñoz agricultural lease from Lot 3, Block 17, Tract 10316 in the municipality of Dededo to Serena Muñoz Sanchez, subject to completion of survey, and to qualify Serena Muñoz Sanchez as a beneficiary of the CHamoru Land Trust based on Public Law 35-112.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, yield to you for any questions before I begin. Go ahead, Commissioner Vidal.
Why does Mr. Glenn A. does not recommend?
Oh, okay. I initially also signed down in favor of this staff report, but the reason why I retracted it, I changed my mind is because of the date and time of the application, which was 2001. And, being, now that, we had a previous ruling earlier, was very rural, this being a 2001 applicant, and this individual who's been occupying and always occupying, never left the place. I know him on a personal level. I made that aware of the staff. He was one of my employees when I had a construction before, and he lived in that and occupied that space since I know him in the 90s and currently. And that's why I went ahead and I retracted took out my initials, not in favor, but now I'm going back, says I'm fine with it. You know, he never left the place. I mean, he said 2001 applicant, that was my main point. But now that I know that, it's board approved, everything went through the whole process, I'm retracting that. I'm fine with that.
I did have one question. How did, or it's an agricultural lease, but it's not commercial, right?
No.
So my concern is the 2 acres.
So, like, because he was under the Arandu, his father, the original applicant is his father, and he was the beneficiary, right, to his father's application, and then his father passed away. But when the father was still alive, and he had the 2 acres, that was approved by the director, administrative director at the time. It was the director that allowed him to continue on with the farming of the 2 acres.
Of the 2 acres.
Yes, and there is site inspection reports. I mean, to date, there are like there, you can tell there's long-term trees. There is kind of farm activity, but because the lease was also issued after 1998, you know, that I have spoken to Ms. Sanchez, and she has agreed to go down to the ½ acre, as long as it's within where their house is at.
Okay. So she's okay to decrease size?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do have, I don't know if it's in there, I don't think I gave it.
No, you have a single page.
So I did ask for a little, you know,
Schema?
to show, yeah, a scheme to cut it up.
Okay. Good, Commissioner.
That's 101-22-18,
Okay.
the scheme?
Can you go ahead and share the scheme, maybe we'll pass it around?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just pass it.
So this is 101-22-18?
Okay,
This is not too far from the
This
golf
is the
course?
last, right next to the
Golf course?
GPA.
that's
park.
Chalani Bamba.
Awesome. So,
Across La Familia.
The market? La Familia Market?
Yes, right across.
okay, so that's 101.
What market?
La Familia?
That's to the GPA,
Adjacent to the GPA power pole. When you're facing into facing GPA power pole, it's to your right side.
Okay, I see. And the lot 3, block 17, track 10316
What
is
street is
So,
that?
the one?
if I may, Pierce, how did it become a tract from the lot?
This is,
So-
yeah,
so it's a portion of
basically
101.
101.2.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
It's a portion of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
What street are they on?
She's in
The main
Chalani
street?
Bamba.
Chalani Bamba.
No, this,
What,
West
what?
side.
Five, six songs.
Isang
Okay. So it's a portion, got it.
This
Sorry.
is not really a
No.
scheme, so
It's just
a draft that,
not
until I request from the director and
to do a reskin.
So the basic lot is 101.22, and then it's a
dash
portion of,
18.
similar to
To La 54.
the Guerrero's
Yes,
Correct.
basic lot,
Yes, sir.
just so that
Okay.
it's pure.
They're okay with decreasing the size?
with
Within,
Serrano.
so I know that we
Actually,
wanna,
They're not really okay with it, but you know, because the law,
right,
they're willing to, as long as, this is where she's at. As long as the area that she's given, or they're given, is where their grandfather's kitchen, you know,
yeah, where the.
what was sentimental to them.
Okay, so I know that there are, we can make provisions for that, but what if it's right in the center? Now we have a perimeter of land that we can't touch because we gave it the center. So how do we, before we make any approvals,
Okay, you wanna show her?
how do
her this-
we make sure, right, Pierce?
So the planning to go out on GPS, the areas that, they want.
Where they want to,
Which is already done, that's why that drawing, then that was done by Melvin, but he's not here now.
That's where
right,
they
so this is,
maintain
Here or
But
here?
it's got a map.
Maintain this
That
whole.
one has a map?
Oh,
Or is
No,
it
not
just-
yet.
this whole
what's
This
the-
is just only.
But
it's
there
a
is-
preliminary sketch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of
There-
the-
There is a master
That's
plan.
the master plan.
Yeah.
That's what you see there, that,
Okay.
like those layers there.
So that's the master plan?
Yes, sir.
It's 2 acres.
Yeah, 2 acres.
Yeah, so that's all.
Okay.
But then it's cut
And that's
down
what
now.
we
So we can actually, if we give them the half acre, then we have the remaining to lease out.
Okay, so,
So then we can.
so what's remaining, you're saying, is lot 3-3,
And then there's another one.
3-2. So,
Yes.
but what we're gonna cut down is basically just 3-3.
Yeah, lot three.
Come up, just make sure the commissioners understand what we're
Okay.
doing.
It's the 10360.
Okay, so right here, right, so you're saying,
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the one this is where their house is.
okay,
So these two properties will be,
Given
can
back.
be
right,
leased out.
right, so
yes.
it's only 3-3 is where we're saying is going to be for the, Munya family.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's lot 3 block,
17.
so this is block
Block 17 here.
So this, if it does get approved, then it won't be lot 3, it'll be lot 3-3.
So that's a scheme.
So no map yet, no? Just,
Not yet.
this is
No.
only tabletop?
This was our, yeah, and then Melvin went out there with us to GPS the area, and that's how he came up with.
Okay.
That's how it's gonna get surveyed.
Right, so my question, next question is who's gonna survey this to make sure we got all 4 corners?
Oh,
It's the responsibility of the lessee.
Yeah.
Okay.
now our surveyor. Because they never get surveyed.
And then perhaps.
Wait,
Because it was,
wait.
that's what they already were issued the survey.
Yeah, understand.
And
So,
they want to,
yeah, so what, can you state the law that states that it's the lessee's
Okay, well,
responsibility
it's-
to, I'm
You
I'm
know-
not challenging, I'm just saying.
okay, so I'm saying it's the responsibility because they're the ones that want the changes.
Understand, yeah. But by law, they're
I
required?
didn't say by
Oh,
law.
okay,
Yeah.
I just said it was their responsibility because they want to,
okay.
there's changes that
All
are
right.
made to the
Question,
lease.
if they
yeah.
don't have the funds, right, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
Well,
my
miss,
point.
They do, that's why they've been waiting for survey authorization,
All right,
but there was a lot, and this has been, my case since 2019, since the lease, 2020, and it just never moved forward.
okay,
And this was an emergency situation, and Mr. Munya wasn't allowed to go back home because of the structure. That structure has been there since I guess the father has
Okay.
been, you know.
okay, sorry, Ms. Camacho, you had some, sorry.
Perhaps the remaining lots, we can absorb. The survey,
To survey.
oh,
maybe we can consider her just portioning out
They
the
can, yeah,
half
they can
acre.
hire survey to just do
And
that
then we
portion.
can do the remaining, that way we have
It's
3
leasable.
lots that
The
can.
remaining is, it's not part of survey.
Right, right. Which
We
would
noted
be-
not part of survey.
Right. But
Which
if,
could possibly be our responsibility or
Yeah, we can, I mean, you know,
prospective lessee
Yeah,
in
yeah.
case we are able to find an applicant.
yeah,
That,
let's, we can consider that down the line, for sure, yeah. Given that, you know, we're wanting to make some leases, right? Okay, so, given that the family, you know, if we make this change and so they are open to the decrease in size, we'll do the survey, we'll give them the authorization, and then with the condition that, you know, they have to do it within a period of time, correct? Do we have to put that, should we put a condition?
Yeah, because we can't issue an addendum.
Right.
We can't transfer anything to Serena if she doesn't survey. So that's one of the.
Subject to survey, yeah.
Yeah, subject to survey within how long? 90 days?
You know, right now.
We always give a window of 90 days, but it's really hard to find a surveyor
Survey, right,
now.
yeah.
But they can always come back and get another.
And then they're gonna have issues, yeah, so we don't really, as long as there's a completion of survey, we won't be able to issue them anything.
Right, understood. Attorney Toft, real quick on this, given that the constituent is willing to decrease the size, we put the condition of survey. Is there anything we're missing here that we're not seeing?
Not that I'm seeing, no.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, any other questions? Okay. And then there is a lease, we're good, right?
There's a lease and it's recorded, but it's under Mr. Munoz.
So then our action is to
Emergency
allow for the
transfer.
transfer of lease to Ms. Munoz. And you have all this, and you do have all this documentation in regards to Mr. Munoz's condition?
Yes, it's all in here, I just, because it's a medical.
Oh, yeah,
thing,
no, we don't wanna, yeah, HIPAA, right, okay.
Yeah, that's what I didn't wanna, and I didn't wanna say it, yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
everything's in
no
here.
details, yeah. Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Additional questions? Okay, if you would like to move forward,
Yep,
okay.
sure, Monday.
I would like to make a motion to allow, to approve Serena Munoz Sanchez as the beneficiary of Eddie Concepcion Munoz, and that we authorize her to get a map, survey the property on lot 10122-18 in, or is it lot 3, I'm sorry, lot 3, block 17, tract 10316, Dedido, and to decrease the 8,140 square meters, which is 2 acres, to half an acre.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Redalia. May I get a second?
I second the motion.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you,
Chairman.
Commissioner Herrera. Motion passes to decrease the size of Lot 3, Block 17, Tract 10316 from 18140 square meters, 2 acres, down to half an acre, to approve the eligibility of Serena Munoz Sanchez as the beneficiary of Eddie Concepcion Munoz.
Oh, a beneficiary to CHamoru Land.
To CHamoru Land Trust Commission. That was the motion. Okay. Thank you. So with those, I think we have one more.
No, is that, so are you approving the emergency transfer?
So that was, we didn't do that one yet.
Oh, gee.
Yes.
That's the one I wanted to.
So
yeah,
T,
right?
we got 3, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have 3. One is A, approve the emergency transfer for lot 3, and then 2 would be to qualify Serena, and then 3 would be to decrease the acreage.
Okay, so we did the 2. So we just need the motion to approve the emergency transfer now.
I would like to make a motion to do an emergency transfer of agricultural land to Serena Munoz Sanchez
Okay.
from Eddie Concepcion Munoz.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Medina. May I get a second?
I second the motion, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Herrera. Any objections?
None.
Okay, the motion passes for the emergency transfer of agricultural lease to Serena Munoz Sanchez from Eddie Concepcion Munoz. Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, next up on our agenda, we're winding down here. We have our agency report and then our financial reports. Okay, Ms. Camacho.
On June 23rd, 2022, CLTC was awarded $239,693 grant from the U.S. Department of Interior Office of Insular Affairs. The grant funding will be used for the development and creation of a database and include the scanning, digitizing, and indexing of CLTC's current and future documents, also the development and creation of CLTC's website. Next item.
Angie, real quick, what was the total amount of that grant?
$239,693.
Awesome, that's good. That's some great news. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I'm just happy that that was one of the items put in our strategic plan.
Yep.
And the funding came through in the form of a grant, which is great for big agency.
Yep.
Okay, on July 26th, CLTC had a budget hearing. for our FY 2023 budget request, for the request of $1,800,960. We hope the legislature will approve the request.
So the 1.8960,
Correct.
okay?
Reporting to the board, recruitments are ongoing. We hope to commence in a few more weeks.
Okay, so we've yet to hire, correct?
Nothing has, no GG1s.
No GG1s yet, but we've got our postings out, we know how many we need.
We've done some interviews.
Okay,
Yes.
and then, you know, with the untimely passing of Miss Lorraine, that will be another position will be, okay, all right,
Yes, yes.
okay,
On July 29, 2022, we will be meeting with Ms. Susan Jamerson from RCAC. Will be taking over the project and is currently assisting CLTC with USDA application for a grant or loan for the installation of water and wastewater on track 1022. And on August 11, 2022, we'll be meeting with representatives from USDA's local and Hawaii State Office. So the last two items are just an update on our grant
application.
/ loan, for infrastructure,
Awesome.
water, wastewater.
Awesome. That's good news.
And that's our agency report for this board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. I think that, I had one question, sorry, I always forget.
Where's that 1022?
It's in Dedido. That is the lot that is,
Was that the sketch we just had, the portion of?
That's the one
Because 1022 is from Marine Drive all the way into the golf course,
Right.
all the way over to Isengsun. So which part is that?
I'm
Oh,
really sorry.
No problem.
That's for residential.
Yeah.
Yes, it's for residential, for water, wastewater.
Yes, that's, it's a contentious track for us because there were multiple leases that have already been awarded, and currently they're substandard in size, so we need to focus on bringing the water and wastewater so they'll be compliant, right?
Any estimate on the length, like quarter mile, 1 mile?
Oh,
I mean,
it's for
the one that-
approximately 166 lots. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm confusing this. It's about 400.
400 lots.
Yeah.
It's a larger piece.
In circle, squared, I mean, you know, the configuration, because it
Yeah.
trapezoidal or, it's okay.
This was an,
I
this was a rental, I believe, that we inherited, so,
in the,
yeah.
So you can go quarter of an acre for
So
water.
if we have the wastewater,
Yeah.
you'll be able to have more.
They're actually about 500 square meters more or less currently. And that puts us in a bad situation because without the infrastructure, we'd need to increase the size to half an acre. And we've already placed about all 400 leases. We'll have to relocate 300.
Yeah.
what's the road name?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
I don't
okay.
have that. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
I couldn't,
okay,
but-
no problem. That's not Swamp Road?
No,
Okay,
All right.
not.
all right, okay.
Any other questions?
I have plenty, but it's okay.
Okay.
No, I needed to know the detail, right, because it's the company that's gonna do that
So,
estimate. I
so,
mean,
yeah, let's sit down with Joey at your convenience, and we'll show you what we have so far. So we
Okay.
did do some preliminaries with GWA.
Yeah.
It'll show you the cost.
we wanted it
of-
for public consumption too,
Yeah.
you know, now.
That's the ultimate, right?
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's the ultimate goal.
All right, Mr. Cruz, you ready for our financial reports?
Mr.
Or
Cruz has asked me to table.
Okay, table the reports. Okay,
You
All
can
right.
just look at it.
yeah, we have the report. So if any questions, please let Joey know. So we'll table that from a discussion. All right, and commissioners, any comments for
No,
today's
very
meetings?
good. Very good meeting.
Yeah, so I thank you guys for being able, we were able to navigate through some difficult scenarios today. I think we can definitely work together when all these other situations come up. And with the help of the staff, they did a really good job in bringing some information and details to light. So thank you. Okay, and we'll have some time for public comments. There is nobody in the room with us today for public comments.
Nope.
Anybody on the Zoom for public comments? Okay, hearing none.
I have one.
Yes,
Congratulations for the grants.
yes. Congratulations to the hard work of Joey, Angie, and the team to
Yeah.
help us to put all those details together. Yes, definitely a great job.
I believe that's the first for CLTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the first.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
A first of many.
Yes.
that we- Yeah.
Yeah.
More to come. Okay, so may I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I
to adjourn.
second.
Okay, and any objections?
Thank you,
Hearing
sir.
none. The time is 4:04, and meeting is adjourned for our regular meeting for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie.
Very good.
Thank you, Attorney Toft.
Everybody
Staff.
took off.
I know.
Is it 5?
Thank you, guys.
4 o'clock.
No, it's 4.
Whew.
Tina, are you off?
Let me just log out of this.
Oh, there's Joey.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Close everything so I can breathe.
You can go.
Finance report for waiting.
You know, I asked to table it because I forgot that we did it already. I thought we did it.
Okay, no worries, no worries.